Good Friday morning to you. Welcome on into Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and of course, you are wonderful listeners as well. 205-834-9450. Well, Conrad, I think, especially, if somebody's watching on YouTube, I'm sure when they see what I have on that they're probably a little sick. But this is in rare occasions. This is exactly who I'm rocking with this weekend. Most of the time when I switch it up during the day, during the week, kind of just throw on a shirt, have a good time. But this one hits a little different. What I have on today, yes, I'm standing firm. I've got all 10 toes into the ground. On this final score Friday, I'm gonna go ahead and nip it in the bud. I'm rocking with Tennessee. I'm rocking with Tennessee this weekend. I think Tennessee is the better team right now. Right now. And I understand that the whole narrative, oh man, Kirby's, his back is against the wall, this Georgia team. Well, he also still has Carson Beck as his quarterback. And I hadn't really, at least for the past, I'd say 5 or 6 weeks, hadn't really had that much confidence in him. And he's shown. And I think Ole Miss kind of gave Tennessee a nice little blueprint. Now Tennessee still has to go out there and execute. But it's been a while since we've seen, Georgia-Tennessee matchup where I felt comfortable about Tennessee going into the game. I think a couple years ago with Hendon Hooker and those guys, I thought, offensively they would have been able to score more than 13 points. But then you have to realize who was across the other side and those guys. But this year, there's something about this game where I think the point spread is entirely insane. And 2, I just think Tennessee's the better team going into this matchup. Speaking of Tennessee and Georgia, by the way.
It's nice to be able to say that for the first time in your 3 years of fandom.
It's bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's bittersweet. It's a little bit tougher than I expected it to be. But when I put it on, it was like, you know what? You're there. Let's do it.
So when they lose to Georgia on Saturday, are you going to wear a Georgia shirt on Monday?
I will not.
Okay.
I will not. I will be too upset to wear a Georgia shirt. Okay. But I do think it's going to be a good game, and I do think that it's pretty much a playoff elimination game for Georgia, because I think the path for them to get back into it is it'd be too great. But I do think that right now Tennessee is the better team going into it. It's just they have to show it on Saturday, and the biggest thing, you cannot start off slow like you have in multiple games this season. And that's kind of the biggest thing. There's a growing interest that Nico Iamaleava will be playing on Saturday. Now, will he be 100%? We don't necessarily know. But if he's on the field and the defense plays like I've seen the Tennessee defense play this past season, all signs show me that Tennessee should win the ball game. It's just, can they get over that mental hurdle of it's Georgia across the other side? Because, again, this Georgia team has shown that they can be beaten. I mean, you saw it last week with Ole Miss. You saw it against Alabama. And the biggest thing for Tennessee, you jump on them early, you jump on them quick, because Georgia hasn't been able to run the football against anybody. Carson Beck has been inconsistent. And I spent, this whole week kind of, all right, when looking at this game, am I trying to convince myself that Georgia has a chance because it's Georgia, or can I look at what they've done in their body of work in 2024 and feel confident that they get it done? And no, when I can look at both of these teams, I think Tennessee going into this ball game is the better football team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. They've certainly played better football as of late. I'll be honest, I don't think that either of them have looked like the best team in the conference as of late. But I do think Tennessee's in a better position. I think that, again, it's weird to say, but I think defensively they've been a little sharper than Georgia has. They've certainly been a better team when it comes to running the football. That's been, I think that's a huge advantage for Tennessee going into this game. We also found out yesterday that ETN's not going to play for Georgia now. So that definitely hurts what they're going to be able to do. And a lot of it is, ultimately probably going to come down to Carson Beck. And it's also going to come down to the Georgia defense, right? Are they going to look like they did against Texas? Or are there going to be things that happen like against Ole Miss, where, I mean, you were able to bring in a backup quarterback and drive right down the field against the Georgia defense. So again, this is the more that we talk about the game, again, it's just, I could see this game going so many different directions. There are so many different potential outcomes that wouldn't necessarily surprise me one way or the other. But I think that's part of what makes it such an intriguing game, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
not only the fact of um, just Tennessee trying to get over the hump of Georgia and coming into the year looking at, well, you got to play Tennessee and you have to play Ole Miss. And I mean, okay, maybe you lose one of those games, but I think we all looked at it as, all right, I mean, if maybe you'll lose to Alabama and Bryant Denny, maybe Texas on the road will be tough, but, Tennessee and Ole Miss, like, those are teams that Georgia normally takes care of business against. And, so can Tennessee kind of do what Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin were able to do, kind of get over that mental hurdle of this is a Georgia team that 2 years ago, we were set up to go to the playoff, and
Mm-hmm.
they came in here and absolutely embarrassed us. And, now that you're going on the road, that would be my biggest concern, I think, if you're Tennessee, is just they've been a different team away from Neyland Stadium. It's been tougher for them. But granted, you could say that about a lot of teams in college football, that they're better at home than on the road. Again, it is just hard for me. And if we see it on Saturday, then I will fully buy in. But a team like Georgia, that I understand they haven't faced this kind of adversity in the regular season in a number of years now. But it's just, I look at it similarly to Alabama, right? And as bad as Alabama looked at times this year, when push comes to shove, when you are in ultimate do or die mode, we have to figure this out if we want to have a shot at playing meaningful football into December. Then we're going to have to tighten some things up, and we're going to have to rediscover kind of that identity of what Georgia football is, just like I think we've seen Alabama do that over the last couple of weeks. Until I can see a team prevent Georgia from doing that, it's hard for me not to think that Georgia at home, backs against the wall, is going to find a way to win this football game. But, I mean, again, as I said, I could see Tennessee going out there and beating them by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I could also see Georgia beating Tennessee by 3 touchdowns. It's just there's so many different variables. And this, I mean, again, if Carson Beck plays like he did in the second half against Alabama, Georgia's probably going to be in a pretty good spot. But if Nico comes in there and he starts hitting the deep shots that he's missed a lot of the times this year,
Mm-hmm.
I think it could get ugly and sideways in favor of Tennessee pretty quickly. It's just, it's a tricky one, man. It's a tricky one. And maybe I need to learn my lesson after not having faith in Ole Miss last week. Maybe this is the sign that, Georgia is going down and this just isn't their year. But I don't know, man. It's been a weird year. It just seems like we've come so far and talked so much about the crazy, SEC championship scenario of you have 6 teams that are all, 6-2 in conference. And I don't know. If Tennessee wins this game, it kind of ruins that. And it just feels like we're meant to have chaos this year.
Yeah. And I'm here for it. And I think and again, like now the line is at 9.5 for Georgia being at home. And I just I've reached this point with Georgia. It's okay. This is just who they are this year, because they don't have the Brock Bowers of the world, the Ladd McConkeys, and even going back to the old school guys of Todd Gurley, Sony Michel, where they could line up and just pound you to death. You couldn't stop them. And now I think all the pressure's on Carson Beck. For the past couple games, he's just been turnover prone. And I think this is the best defense that, outside of Ole Miss, this is the best defense he's going to be seeing. And most of the time when he plays against good defenses, they expose him. And it's just, as long as Tennessee, to me, I think it's more mental than it is physical. Because right now, I just think that when you look at both of these teams and everything that they've done, their peak, they look like one of the best teams in college football. And when it's off, it's like the 3-point shot. It's just, you live and die by it. But I think what Tennessee's been able to do is, all right, we can be the more physical team in this game. Because if Ole Miss can do it, I find it difficult that Tennessee couldn't go out there and replicate it, if not do it at a better level.
No, I agree. I think that's the big thing. And, I would imagine that was one of the big takeaways for Tennessee this week, is go back and look at what Ole Miss was able to do, particularly on the defensive front. And, you're going up to James Pierce and guys like that throughout the week, and you're going, all right, this is where you make your money, big
Yep.
dog. Like, this is your opportunity. Because that was, I think probably the most shocking part about the Ole Miss game was just, again, we had heard Lane talk about how important it was to go in the portal and fortify that defensive front, and he did it for that Georgia game, and it paid off big time. And Tennessee up front is, I would say similarly lethal. And that has to give you a lot of confidence that if you play this game the way that Tennessee probably wants it to, granted, if you can get the shots from Nico, you're going to take them. But I mean, if you're just able to make Carson Beck uncomfortable, get him to turn the ball over a couple times, and just kind of slow down Georgia offensively. I mean, if you're Tennessee, you can sit there and you're like, let's just run this thing, right?
Yep.
Like, let's just slow this game down. Don't put all of the pressure on Nico to go out there in a high pressure situation and essentially put the game on his shoulders. Let the defense do their thing and run the football, because the best offensive player you've had this year is Dylan Sampson, and make that your this is the we are Tennessee. We are going to, it's their own version essentially of like a joyless murder ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pound you defensively, and we're going to run the football, and we are going to make you want to quit. We are going to make it so that in the second half, you don't want to see our offense walking back out on that field because you know what's coming. And, that's easier said than done. But
It is.
again, it's also, we've seen teams be able to do that to Georgia this year, and you're not used to seeing that. So,
Absolutely.
and now someone's broke the curse of, somebody other than Alabama beating them for the first time in however
Forever.
many years. So 4 or 5 years. So,
Right. It was what, a 52 game winning streak of wins
yeah,
against teams that's not
crazy.
named Alabama. it's ridiculous. But yeah, somebody finally broke that curse, and it was Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. And again, we're gonna look back there. We're gonna look back at this about 10 years from now and say, what happened in that game? And I'm gonna have to explain. We're gonna have to explain to people that Ole Miss was the more physical football team against the Kirby Smart led Georgia program. Yes, it happened. It happened. But y'all know what happens on Fridays. It's Final Score Friday. We just want you to send in, text in, call in your final scores for some games over the weekend. Of course, we have Alabama taking on Mercer, Auburn taking on Louisiana Monroe. We'll talk about those games as well. And Joseph, he already getting it started this morning. He sends in some final scores. He's got Georgia over Tennessee 27-23, Texas over Arkansas 34-14, LSU over Florida 30-24, South Carolina over Missouri 33-21. And he says his underdog pick is Arizona State over Kansas State 27-24. Simple as that. Your text messages, your calls on this Final Score Friday. We'll also take a look at some games over the weekend and so much more. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5.
6:17 here on your Friday morning. Welcome back in to Morning JOX. JOX 94.5. Conrad and Damian with you here until 7 o'clock, getting you set for tomorrow's action across the college football world. We have a great slate coming up tomorrow in the SEC. Starting off early, your 11 a.m. kick here in the SEC. Maybe upset watch if you feel a little daring tomorrow, as you have the Texas Longhorns heading over to Fayetteville to take on Arkansas. That's going to be your 11 a.m. kick here in the SEC. Then you got Auburn hosting Louisiana Monroe there in Jordan-Hare. That game's going to kick off at 11:45 for you. You got Kentucky and Murray State at 12:30. LSU, Florida at 2:30. Mercer traveling to Alabama. That's going to be your 1 o'clock kickoff. And then you have Missouri traveling to South Carolina at 3:15. Tennessee, Georgia, the big one in prime time, 6:30 there on ABC. And then wrapping it up, 6:45, New Mexico State traveling to College Station to take on Texas A&M and those Fighting Aggies. So that's your college football slate we have coming up tomorrow. You also have Alabama, Purdue basketball tonight if you're looking for something interesting to watch tonight, because I will not be watching Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. So, I'm sure there's some people out there that will, and more power to you. But if you're looking for something else to watch, you got Alabama, Purdue basketball. That'll be good. And, of course, a lot of high school football playoffs going on.
You ain't going to watch Tyson Paul?
Around the state, no. Well, I will be calling the Mountain Brook football game, but even if nope. I could just find so many things that I would rather do than watch that.
I just want Tyson knock him out.
Oh, that would be funny, but
if he could, I'm telling you, if he could just dip, if even if for 20 seconds, if he can go back to Iron Mike Tyson mode for just a few moments in his life, I want him to absolutely destroy Jake Paul.
Did you see the, I will say this was funny. Did you see the clip that was going around yesterday of the kid that was interviewing Mike Tyson? And she was, if you missed the clip, essentially there's this little girl and she's interviewing Mike Tyson, and she goes, man, it's just so cool that for kids my age who have heard their parents, talk about the great Mike Tyson, like, we're actually finally going to get to see you fight in real life. And she's like, what do you think this means for your legacy? And
he went on
a rant about how legacy is meaningless and it's just a stupid word that people latched onto, and all it means is you have a big ego if you're worried about your legacy. And he's not worried about it, because when he dies, he doesn't care what his legacy is, because he's going to be dead, and no one should care about no one else should care about it.
Right, and that's the rated E for everyone version that because he had some few choice words. I'm like, hey man, you realize you're talking to a child, big dog.
I know, it's great. It's like she couldn't be more than 10 or 11 years old, and she's just,
I've never heard an answer like that before, but thank you, Mike Tyson.
And of course, it's way better, with his voice and everything. It just makes it that much funnier. But
she just sits there like, okay,
that's some vintage Mike Tyson there, but
might be some traces of CTE. When you've been in the boxing ring like that and been as ferocious as he's been over the years, hey, the best ever. But I'm telling you, man, at 58 years old, I wouldn't want to take a punch from him. I will be straight up.
That's a pretty good Mike Tyson, though.
I appreciate it.
That's not bad.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Mike Tyson and Jimbo Fisher are two. I think I can get pretty good.
You got a Jimbo? All right, do Jimbo.
It'll come to me. It comes in waves. It's like one of those I can just, I'll gradually get into it. You're like, wait a minute, why do you sound like that? But Jimbo's easy because he talks fast and very high pitched.
Just let me handle it.
That too. That too. Best team money could buy. Best recruiting class money could buy. Only went 5 and 7. 205-834-9450. Y'all know how we do it on Fridays. It's Final Score Friday here on Morning JOX. We just asked you to send us what you think the scores are going to be this weekend. We've got one. We've got Alabama. We got a guy texting in Alabama over Mercer 49-0. Auburn over Louisiana Monroe 35-17. Got a Tennessee over Georgia 35-31. LSU over Florida 28-17. South Carolina over Missouri 42-21. Texas over Arkansas 52-24. And his underdog pick, he has Utah knocking off Colorado 21-17. I can get jig with that.
That would be impressive too, especially with, Utah being so close last week against BYU, and that can be tough to come back from, but that'd be impressive.
We got some more texts coming in. We got somebody takes Bama over Mercer 42-3. Georgia over Tennessee 24-21, and Auburn squeaking by Louisiana Monroe 21-17.
Oh,
That's a little
we'll have a lot to
uncomfortable.
talk about on Monday if that's the case.
Drake, the one not from Canada, texts in and says Billy Napier said that DJ Lagway is playing. He's got Florida knocking off LSU 24-17.
Yep, DJ Lagway is going to start.
He will be. Now, what percentage is he? I don't know, but you are definitely you have a better advantage with him at the quarterback position than no disrespect to Warner, but yeah, it's a big drop off.
I was about to say the hamstring's a big one though, because if that's 100% and he's good to go, I mean, as we've now seen the last 2 times that LSU has gone out on a football field, they have allowed quarterbacks to run all over them.
Yep.
So that makes this game a little more interesting.
It will be. It will be. I think DJ Lagway, he gives Florida the best chance.
Absolutely.
To actually make that ball game. And again, no disrespect to Warner, but you're not that guy, pal.
No, not yet.
Wasn't expecting you to be in this position, kind of thrown out there in the in the lion's den, but he's
put him back in the oven. He's not ready yet. Needs to bake for another year or two, and then maybe we'll
see where it goes.
Yeah.
From there, we're kind of looking at the teams here locally. They're playing this weekend. Alabama taking on Mercer, and the biggest thing for Alabama, just don't be sloppy. Go out there, handle your business like you're supposed to. Make sure everybody stays healthy, but still ensure that you're trending towards success here in November. Make sure everything's starting to iron out. If anything, now you see that Jalen Milroe is ready for the grind that is going to be his legs if you need him. Don't ask him to be Tom Brady in the pocket. He's good. We know exactly what we're looking for. And I think there's some things that you could work on. I think continue with the signs that we're seeing joyless murder ball start to come back a little bit. And this is something that you can lean on. I do think this Mercer team, defensively, they're one of the best teams in the FCS. But again, there's going to be a talent gap from the Bears and the Crimson Tide. But the biggest thing for Kalen DeBoer, don't take this team lightly. Don't go out there and be lazy. Don't try to get too cute. Go out there, do what you need to do, handle your business, get some young guys some reps later on in the ball game, some real quality game reps. And I think Alabama should be getting their mind right for that trip to Norman, Oklahoma next week.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a good, I think, a mental game for Alabama, in the sense that, the last time you had a big win like you did over Georgia, you went out the next week and you lost to Vanderbilt, right? And so I don't look, I know as weird as the season's been, this is a different kind of matchup. I don't think there's any realistic possibility that Mercer would beat Alabama, but they could make it too competitive or make it a sloppy game to where you're sitting there at the end and you're going, man, all right, there's a lot of things that Alabama has to clean up before they go to Norman. And it's just about being consistent, right? At this point, it's continuing to establish the identity of your football team, keep running the football, continue to allow the defense to be aggressive, and don't make the mental mistakes, right? Like at this point, you are just trying every week, do the little things right, continue to get a little bit better week by week by week, because, let's be honest, the next 3 games, the rest of your schedule, you should win all of those games. No problem. Like you should. Alabama's significantly better this year than Mercer, Oklahoma, or Auburn. But that doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to win all of those games, right? Because you can still stub your foot, especially in a rivalry game against Auburn, even though it's in Bryant-Denny. And that's a team that they would love nothing more than to ruin Alabama's season and their chance to get into a college football playoff. So it's just, again, do the little things right. Don't make the stupid errors, hold each other accountable, and just, keep chugging along. Because right now everything's looking good. You just, you got to continue to do the things. Again, I understand it's a lot easier to get up for a night game against LSU than a 1:00 kickoff at home against Mercer, but you have to prepare and approach the game the exact same every single week regardless, because again, this is a team that has shown they're susceptible to stubbing their toe, shooting themselves in the foot. And I just, as a fan, please God, do not do that.
Hey, and then we flip it over to the Auburn side of things as Auburn takes on Louisiana Monroe on the SEC Network at 11:45. Don't have another New Mexico State game. Simple as that.
Yep.
That's all it comes down to. Now, if Peyton Thorne is not at 100%, if you put him out there, don't make him throw the ball all over the yard. If there was ever a game besides Kentucky where you're looking at Jarquez Hunter saying, "Big dog, this is your show." You got this game, you got Texas A&M left at home, you got Alabama for your final Iron Bowl, and your last 3 games as an Auburn Tiger. My God, we gonna give you the royal treatment. I hope you can take it. I hope you got your oxygen tank. If you're an asthmatic, hope you got your inhaler, because this is about to be a heavy dose of 27 the rest of the way. It has to be. It absolutely has to be. Because again, if you're starting Hank Brown Saturday, or if Holden or Walker, whoever the quarterback is, against a team like Louisiana Monroe, which Brian Vincent has done a wonderful job in year 1 down there at with this program, because it pretty much was the worst FBS school as far as, facilities and, winning percentage. It was near the bottom. And they're not going to come in there and not be, ready to play. They're going to have upset on their mind. But the biggest thing for Auburn is, one, your defense has been pretty consistent all year long. They've kept you reasonably in every single ball game. It's just your offense hadn't clicked. And when it has, it's been against the likes of an Alabama A&M and a New Mexico. You could say Oklahoma, but one play kind of changed how that game looked as well. So I think now it's, do not have the mental lapse, or do not have the dumb penalties, the dumb mistakes, the not converting on third downs. Just don't put bad tape on the field against a team like Louisiana Monroe. That's all it comes down to. If you play like you're supposed to with all the talent that you have, the game plan shouldn't be, let's try this and look cute. Nah. Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb, Jarquez Hunter, I hope you got your legs under you, because this is going to be your ball game. Because again, if Peyton Thorne's not 100%, and it's on his throwing shoulder. He's injured his throwing shoulder. Don't ask him to go out here and throw it to Cam Coleman 70 yards down the field. If you got it, take it, but don't make that the identity of the offense. Just go out there, do what you need to do. And same the way with Alabama. Don't come out there lazy. Don't come out the gate thinking that you got it won, because again, this is about to be your 4th win of the season. So you want to make sure that these next 3 games, you're playing with nothing to lose at this point, except the ball game. You've already done that 6 times.
Yeah, this is just you don't want to lose this game and make what's been a nightmare season even more nightmarish, and start maybe some of the conversations that will be held until next year. Make those conversations start being had right now. That's what it's about. On top of the fact that, again, I get it. It's a pipe dream. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think Auburn's going to win their next 3 games, but they can. And it starts with this one.
Yep.
So, right, you can't lose this one, because then it doesn't – you could go and beat Texas A&M and Alabama, and that's great, but you're still not going to a bowl game. And, it starts with this. And like you said, just don't put more bad tape out there, right? This is when we've seen, earlier in the year, these caliber of opponents against Auburn, they looked pretty good. So can you continue to do that? Can you pick yourself up off the mat? It's been an ugly season. We all get it, but this is one that you need to get. And yeah, just give the ball to 27, because Texas State ran for 325 yards against ULM last weekend, and they do not have a Jarquez Hunter in their backfield. So yeah, seems like a pretty safe game plan there to me.
Absolutely. No need to overthink it, Coach. Nope. No need to overthink it. But just be careful, because Brian Vincent, it's going to be a physical ball game on their side too, because they like to run the football. If you remember his time when he was here at UAB, line up in the pistol set, the line up in, offset, shotgun, and they are going to run the football. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. Even if they get 3 yards in a cloud of dust, defensively, you better make sure your chin straps buckle, because it's coming again. Counter, stretch, outside zone, inside zone, any flavor of the RPO as well. It's getting your way. So just make sure for Auburn and Alabama, do not put bad tape out against these quote unquote inferior opponents. That's the biggest thing. So we'll continue on this Final Score Friday. Still have some scores coming in. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls, and also some more football around the SEC when we return here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:36 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well. 205-834-9450 on this final score Friday. Oh, man. Drake, speaking of Drake takes in. He says, what will be the outcome if Auburn loses this game on Saturday? I think there might be a athletic director coming to do the press conference on Monday. Or do you think they'll wait to the end of the season?
I'll be completely honest with you. I think even if Auburn did lose to ULM, I don't think that they would fire Hugh Freeze right now.
But that leash is going to be extremely short in 2025.
Yes, it will be a very bad look, but I don't. Yeah, I personally, I still don't think that they would get rid of him. I think there's a lot of fans that would want them to get rid of him right now, but I just think financially, I don't know if you're going to do that. Plus, again, let's remember, you have a top 5 recruiting class in the country right now. Do you want to get rid of your head coach and potentially lose those guys? And, I don't know. Maybe if that's, I think it would take more than just the loss to ULM to, I think if Auburn goes 0-3 the rest of the way and they're 3-9, like, does that, again, is 3-9 versus 4-8 with a win over ULM really that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things? Like, I understand, like, it's frustrating, but if you're not going to fire him for going 4-8, I don't think you fire him for going 3-9.
I feel you.
So
it's just
I personally think he deserves another year still. So
yeah. I agree with you. It's just that, like I said, that leash is going to be.
Oh, it's going to be scorching hot.
Oh God.
I wouldn't want to be in his spot, but
at all.
Again, hey, we wouldn't have wanted to be Billy Napier or Sam Pittman coming into this year either, and look where we are now.
Yeah, fair point. And that is a very fair point. Somebody takes in and said, "Better get your popcorn ready for that ULM Auburn game." Man, don't do this. Is it kind of just a blind optimism? Because I just think Auburn's going to go out there and handle their business. I really do. I think they're going to go out there.
I think they'll be fine.
I think they'll nip it in the bud quick. At least they need to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I mean, I don't know if I would feel great about them covering necessarily because that's a big number. But in terms of Auburn going out and winning by 2 touchdowns or something, yeah, I mean, that should be easy at minimum. I'm not worried about Auburn's ability to win this football game. Maybe I should be, but I more so look at it as, this is going to be a team that wants to come in and has their sights set on an upset, and they're going to, throw the kitchen sink at Auburn, and I think they can keep it interesting for a while. But Auburn is a significantly better football team. As bad as they've been this year, they are significantly better than ULM, and that's nothing against ULM. It's just the reality of the talent that they have at their disposal. So.
Somebody takes in. John takes in and says ULM has less of a chance than Jake Paul. I mean, Jake Paul is actually the favorite.
I was about to say, yeah, isn't he supposed to win? Isn't that the whole point?
He's supposed to. But not all 58-year-olds are built the same. And I learned that seeing Mike Tyson. And also, my dad is 58. And I look at him.
I was about to say, you get in a fight with a 58-year-old?
Like, not all of them are built the same. I'm like, I've seen the way he punches. I've seen the clips of him back in the day. That just don't just fall off. Especially now he's back in training and stuff too. I just want it to happen. I really do, man. I want Mike Tyson to mop the floor with him. Just because in all seriousness, like I want to see Jake Paul, if he's going to continue on this boxing thing, actually fight real boxers that are, even if they're just scratch amateurs, but they're at least in your age range. Like he's beating up guys that are, former UFC fighters that are now just trying to get into boxing. And it's just, again, it's a prize fight. He's in it for the money. I get it. Makes a lot of sense. He's selling. All eyes are going to be on them. But it would be kind of laughable if a 58-year-old man,
that would be
puts
hilarious.
you in the hospital.
Yeah, I just can't stand Jake Paul.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll give him credit, right? Like he wanted to go and he was famous from YouTube or whatever, and he wanted to go and be a professional boxer. I'll give him credit. Like
he put
in the work to go and do that. I just find him to be an insufferable human being, so I'm not going to root for him to win.
Yes, sir.
No.
I'm right there with you. 205-834-9450. Final score Friday. We've got some text messages, got some calls. We've got Somebody takes in Alabama over Mercer, 49-10. Tennessee over Georgia, 24-21. Auburn over ULM, 27-10. We got JB who texted in. He's got Bama over Mercer, 42-13. Auburn over ULM, 38-17. Says it's been a while since Georgia lost back-to-back games, but he has Tennessee in a close one, 23-20. LSU over Florida, 24-20, and South Carolina over Missouri, 27-24. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's talk to our buddy Don this morning on Final Score Friday. What's happening, Don?
Hello, my friends. How are y'all on Friday?
Hey, man, ain't no complaining this way, brother.
Hey, my buddy Damien, that is a one bright orange shirt you got on.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
It actually looks quite comfortable. I can't lie.
Appreciate you, man.
It does look comfortable. That looks like a comfortable shirt and hoodie. But guys, Damien, buddy, everybody's looking for you last night down at the Stallions event. Man, what a great event that was.
Who was looking for me? Was it Coach Holtz?
All your shirtless friends. Your shirtless section friends were saying, "Where's your buddy Damien?"
Yeah, Damien.
Of all the things he could have said, he's just like, yeah, your shirtless friends. He could have just said Stallions fans, dog. Word choice.
I mean, your fellow Stallions shirtless friends. Let me rephrase that.
There we go, Don.
Yeah, that made it that much better. That made it that much better.
Okay. Well, yeah, guys, here's my predictions. I agree with you, Damien. We need to feed the beast, man. I'm saying 42-10 Auburn. They're going to cover the spread, by the way, in my opinion. Conrad, buddy, for you, I think y'all are going to have no mercy on them and get ready for getting in your late season mode. 56-7 Alabama, and my favorite game of the week, guys, is Missouri at South Carolina, and I like South Carolina to win that one, 27-20. That's an interesting game to me because I think South Carolina's playing really good ball right now.
Mm-hmm.
But fellas, y'all go have a great weekend.
You ain't gonna pick Tennessee, Georgia?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah, I think Kirby and them are up against the wall. I like Georgia 27-20. Okay. Not covering that spread though. Okay.
I got you. Yeah, that's only good team. Good teams win. Great teams cover. So Georgia's just gonna be a good team.
Well, what does that make Tennessee if they lose?
Loser. That's what it makes them.
Okay, just making sure.
That's what it makes them. God, could have said anything. Could have said anything as far as like, hey, yeah, the Stallions faithful. Oh, you shirtless friends. Like, whoa.
Well, I was confused until
matters.
He said Stallions fans or shirtless fans. So then, we put two and two together and it made sense.
Oh, man. I'm telling you, boy. I tell you. We've got Dave. He takes in. He just says Bama, Tennessee, and Auburn all win. Somebody takes in. Is all the SEC starting to get just as good as each other, or is there no stand above or stand alone great team this year? No, I think the gap is just starting to close up, and I think Vanderbilt kind of brought that to light this season because again I had them already penciled in 16 out of 16 in the preseason. Didn't think about it. Then early on the season, you watch them against Virginia Tech. It's like, oh, okay, maybe Vandy's gonna be good. Then they lose to Georgia State, and it's like, all right, well now we're back to regular scheduled programming. And then they start reeling off some wins of the magnitude in which they have. It's okay. Well, this gap has gotten a lot closer in SEC play, but I also think that's just the nature of college football as a whole now. Because when you look at it nationally, Oregon's the number one team in the nation, but they don't just jump off the page of saying, no, that is the best team in the nation. I feel like there's a group of teams in college football that are pretty good, but nobody has truly just separated themselves as being, quote unquote, the greatest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, a lot of it has to do with just the world of the transfer portal and NIL and things like that, right? I mean, you have, look at, Ole Miss and them bolstering, their defensive line like we've talked about. You went and got guys, you went and got guys from other SEC schools, right? You go and look at somebody like an LT Overton that went to Alabama. Like, that's a guy that played at Texas A&M, but now, like, that's more of maybe a depth piece for you at Texas A&M, and he's now a starter at Alabama, right? So you have these guys that were, when you had the next man up mentality, well, those guys are now at other schools because they can get paid money to go start somewhere else as opposed to riding the bench where they are now. Or heck, look at somewhere like South Carolina, right? And what they did, they had their NIL money. They went and got out a stud defensive lineman in Dylan Stewart. That's paid mega dividends for them. And they went and they got out and they paid and recruited a good quarterback in Lenore Sellers, right? Like they are able to use, maybe you're not able to have the elite recruiting classes that, we're seeing like an Alabama or an Auburn have this year, but you can identify, hey, here's 2 or 3 guys that we really, really think fit what we do here and can take us to the next level. And you put all your resources into bringing those guys into your program and you see what happens. Now, granted, you also have maybe the ugly side of that sometimes where you're like a Kentucky and you bring over a quarterback from Georgia who supposedly almost won the starting job at Georgia last year, and you're like, oh man, this could be a game changer for Kentucky, and then you realize that it's not. But it's there's just the parity is so much better because you have all of the talent being more spread out because it's pay for play. That's part of it.
Absolutely.
And I'm here for it personally. This is great.
I'm right there with you, brother. It makes the league, it makes the sport that much better because you really have, like, if you're in Oregon or like just any of these teams in the top 12 in the playoffs right now, you feel like, oh yeah, each one of them has a legit argument of how they could potentially be a national champion. And I think that makes the sport that much better.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at even at Colorado, like, and as bad as things were last year, I mean, they have a legitimate shot at making the playoff in year 2. Like, it just goes to show, and I understand it's a unique situation with his son and everything, but teams now believe if you bring in the right coach or you get your boosters to give you enough money in NIL one off season, you can completely change the trajectory of your program. Granted, it might be for 1 year. You might have one shot to make it count, but you can do that now, and teams are seeing that that's a realistic possibility.
It does. Final score Friday. We got some picks to make on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:52 here on Morning JOX. JOX 94.5, Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order. Wrapping up here, getting you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning at the top of the hour on this Final Score Friday. Appreciate your text messages, your calls. Nick, he sends his predictions before we wrap up here. He's got Alabama over Mercer, 45-3. Auburn over Louisiana Monroe, 21-7. And Tennessee over Georgia, 30-20. 30-22. I like that. I like that one a lot. And I think that's a game that we're going to have a discussion here as we make some picks. We'll start off at 11 o'clock, SEC matchup and SEC rivalry. Texas travels to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Right now, Arkansas is a 12-point underdog at home, over under set at 57.5. I think Texas covers. I think that Texas is starting to hit that point in the season where they need to go out there and make sure they assert their dominance, show them that they're one of the top teams in college football. They started off last week against Florida. And granted, I know Florida's a little bit different than Arkansas, but I think Arkansas probably we've kind of already seen their peak, and I think they're now just trying to survive the rest of the way. And I think this matchup is just not going to fare well for Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas now, they hear some of the noise about, well, do you really deserve to be as ranked as highly as you are? You don't have a statement win on your resume yet. And I think they do something similar to what Ole Miss did to Arkansas a couple weeks ago. Honestly, I think they're going out there. They're just trying to, pass the eye test with flying colors right now.
11:45 on the SEC network. Auburn takes on Louisiana Monroe. Auburn's a 25-point favorite at home. Over under set at 46. So that's Vegas is telling me that Louisiana Monroe probably ain't gonna score that much. But I think that I think Louisiana Monroe covers. I can see this game being, like a 27-10, 27, even 27-7. Because I don't know if this Auburn offense is going to just explode to that point. And I probably lean the under in this game as well.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if they're just going to run the football like we think that they should, that's going to slow the game down a little bit. If Peyton Thorne's out there, but his shoulder's hurt, how much are you really going to be throwing the football? I think ULM is good enough to keep it competitive. Yeah, this is an Auburn win should be easy, but yeah, I think like 17. Auburn wins by 17. That sounds about right.
Right. Yeah, I would lean more that direction as well. Well, big game in the conference, in pretty much the entire country.
Yeah, Alabama Mercer.
No, not that one. No. Tennessee traveling to Georgia. Tennessee right now a 9.5-point underdog, over under set at 47. I'm taking Tennessee straight up. I think Tennessee wins the ball game. I think they are actually the better team right now. So I'm definitely would take them plus the points because I think that spread is just ridiculous right now. But if Nico's healthy and 100%, I think Tennessee wins.
Yeah, that spread is crazy. I get it's on the road. Maybe it happens. I like Tennessee to cover. I think they're good enough to keep it within the points, but I do think Georgia ultimately wins the game.
If Tennessee wins, were you going to sing Rocky Top Monday?
You can. I'll play it for you, but I'm not going to sing it.
Why not?
Don't want to do that.
Oh. But you'll eat 17 donuts in, 30 seconds, but you won't sing Rocky Top. Didn't think it was that bad.
Those are completely unrelated.
Mac and Q in the morning. They're next.